Let's bring in Firas Maksad now. He's the Director of Strategic Outreach and a Senior Fellow at the Middle East Institute. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us. So Joe Biden says he has decided how to respond to this attack in Jordan. As Kimberly was just saying, he doesn't want to escalate a wider war. So what options are available to him?
Well, there's certainly a number of options, Laura, and there's a great deal of pressure, particularly from the right side of the political spectrum in Washington, to take a fight to Iran. Iran has been acting against American interests in the region with plausible deniability, really using these militias to try and thwart and push out American forces out of Syria and Iraq in particular. I think these will be disappointed. President Biden clearly does not want to escalate at this time with Iran. They're much more interested in the ongoing diplomatic process that we saw unfold in Paris, the sort of Qatari, Egyptian-led mediation to release hostages, Israeli hostages, and try to bring about at least a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. So I think what the Biden administration will probably land on is some kind of tiered, sustained campaign against these militias in Syria and Iraq, possibly even targeting Iranian officials in these countries, something similar to what they've been doing against the Houthis in Yemen, but stop short of targeting Iran itself.
And nothing on Iranian soil, because, of course, Iran insists that it is not responsible for any of these attacks by groups that it supports. What do you make of that? What do you think its involvement is?
Yeah, well, that's a statement that's kind of hard to believe. Anybody who knows this region, follows it closely, knows that Iran has been arming and training and equipping these groups for a number of years now. With Hezbollah, it's a relationship that dates back to 40 years. Strategically, also, they share the common objective. They've stated time and again, the Iranians and these militias, that they're working together to push the United States out of the region. So, yes, the Iranians want to leave that buffer. They want to have that plausible deniability that enables them to strike at American interest, but yet again not have to pay the price, to leave room for the administration to back down from having to retaliate directly. And I think in this case, they'll probably get what they're looking for. They will get a measured response that will not target Iran proper.
It's interesting that Iraq and Jordan have been very keen to distance themselves from any military threat. So Iraq has already said that it's very unhappy with the number of retaliatory strikes that the US has been carrying out and the number of civilian casualties that those, of course, it's looking at insisting on the withdrawal of US troops from Iraq. Do you think it's going to carry out that threat?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the dilemma that Iran is looking to put the Biden administration in. This attack happens at a time when the Iraqi government and the Americans are very much discussing the future of American forces in Iraq. So taking action that would force the Americans to retaliate within Iraqi territory will only add to tensions between the Iraqi government and the United States, further increasing the likelihood that the U.S. would be asked to leave. So the Iranians have planned this very carefully. They're trying to put the Biden administration in policy dilemmas. But I think ultimately President Biden will have to retaliate, and some of that retaliation will come on Iraqi soil.
How destabilizing has Israel's war on Gaza been for the region?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been saying for some time now that to say that this is now an Israel-Hamas war is to miss the forest for the trees. This is now an Iranian-American confrontation. That's the result of the détente that fell apart between the two countries, and it fell apart under the pressure and the burden of the war in Gaza. So yes, what's happening in Gaza is reverberating throughout the region. The American-Iranian détente that was achieved in last May that allowed for a cooling of these various theaters of conflict across the region and an understanding on the threshold of which Iran is allowed to enrich uranium, that has now completely come apart. So we need to see some kind of resolution to the conflict in Gaza to begin winding that down in order to start de-escalating conflicts elsewhere.
Very interesting to speak to you. Firas Maksad, thanks for joining us there from Washington, D.C.
My pleasure.